did some things that probably a lot of people wouldn't do, but I did it because I thought it was very important that that operation didn't shut down. Krikorian already put billions of dollars of his own money in it. And they had an investor from one of the Middle Eastern countries. And I did a lot of things I say that a lot of you wouldn't do, but I did it. And I saved that project. I'm not going into detail, but I called people that I would doubt that any of you would call. I called bank presidents. I called leaders of countries. And anyway, it's completed now. I take some credit for that. The stimulus, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, we got that done. Yesterday, the presiding officer was the senior senator from Maine. Oh, she was so helpful. I hope it doesn't get her in trouble to boast about her here today. But she and her colleague from Maine, Olympia Snow, and Arlen Specter, we only had 58 votes as Democrats, and they were the difference. We were able to get that passed only because of them. And it was so good for our country. Obama, his first 2 months after having been elected, the country lost 800,000 jobs. Can you imagine that? A month. But that, because of the stimulus bill, we were able to reverse that. We did a lot of wonderfully good things in that were important for the country. Travel Promotion Act. Amy Klobuchar is here. She worked so hard on helping get that done. It promoted travel of foreigners to come here, come to America. And it's worked out so well. 7 different cloture I had to file on that to get it done. But we got it done finally. And it's been remarkably good for America. Other countries, you'll see them on TV, they're always advertising about come visit Australia, come visit the Bahamas, come visit England, come visit every place. But now there's advertising going on around the world. Come visit America. Now everyone knows that Las Vegas gets more than its share probably of visitors. But it was good for Nevada, but it was also good for the country. Nevada test site workers. We were the Cold War veterans in Nevada. That was a big project. We had 12,000 workers there at one time. We had above ground tests. I can remember seeing them. We were a long ways away in searchlight, but you would see that flash and you wouldn't always feel it. Sometimes it would bounce over searchlight, but it was really a big deal. We didn't know that it was making people sick, but they were good enough to make sure the tests didn't go off when the wind was blowing toward Las Vegas. They blew up toward Utah, and Utah suffered terribly bad because of those above ground tests. And so we worked to make sure the test site workers, who were part of our reason for winning the Cold War, because it was dangerous what they did. And that we passed that number of different segments to get it done. So we've done a lot to protect people. Nevada transportation. McCarran Airport field. I've tried for years to get the name taken off that. He was a Democratic senator from Nevada who was an awful man. I tried to get his name off that. It didn't work. I tried to get J. Edgar Hoover's name off the FBI building. That didn't work. But we had a vote here. I can still remember how mad Orrin Hatch was when I did that. But anyway, everybody had to vote on it. I think I made a mistake. I tried to name it after Bobby Kennedy. That was the mistake I made, I think. Anyway, McCarran Airport. It's, I think, the 5th busiest airport in America now. We've gotten money for a new traffic control center. It's one of the largest structures in western United States. We've gotten we've done a good job taking care of McCarran. All kinds of construction funding for runways and rehabilitation of runways. In the stimulus bill, one of the last things we put in that was bonding capacity that allowed McCarran Field to build a big new terminal. More than $1 billion we got in that legislation, and it was really important during the recession to have all those workers there, thousands and thousands on that new terminal, which is now completed. Reno. Well, I was also able to direct money toward getting a new traffic control center there, new air control tower. We've done all the construction funding, a lot of stuff, good stuff for the airport in Reno. So I feel good about what we've done to help Nevada transportation, not the least of which everybody is billions of dollars in directed spending for roads and highways in Nevada. And it's really made a change in northern Nevada and in southern Nevada. And it's important for us to be able to bring people to Las Vegas. So we made deals with the California State Department of Transportation, and we participated in big construction projects that took place in California. Barstow, San Bernardino. We did that because it would make it easier for people to come to Las Vegas. So I wasn't just giving money to Las Vegas, to Nevada. We also did it, of course, for California because it helped us. Healthcare. Affordable Care Act, I've talked about that a little bit. It would have been wonderful if we'd had something like that around to help my family when we were growing up. I have worked hard to help a number of you on the Children's Health Insurance program. Orrin Hatch was certainly involved in that. Just like I had trouble coming to grips with my home in Searchlight, I had trouble coming to grips with the fact that my dad killed himself. I was like most, we're called victims. We shouldn't be, but that's what we're called. This year, about 32,000 people will kill themselves in America. That doesn't count the hunting accidents are really suicides. The car accidents are really suicides. So I couldn't get my arms around the suicide. Republican Senator Cohen from Maine was a chairman of the Aging Committee upon which I served. And we were doing a hearing on senior depression. And Mike Wallace came, the famous journalist. And here's what he said. I have wanted to die for years. I would take the most dangerous assignments I could, hoping I wouldn't come back. He said, I'm okay now, though. I want to live forever. He said, I take a pill once in a while. I see a doctor once in a while, and I'm good. I'm okay. And I said for the first time publicly, Mr. Chairman, my dad killed himself. That was a long time ago. But I think it would be extremely important for this committee to hold a hearing on senior suicide, because we've learned since my focusing on suicide, we've done some good things as members of Congress. We've directed spending to study why people kill themselves, because we don't know for sure. Isn't it interesting that most of the suicides take place in the western part of the United States? You would think it would be in those dark places like Maine, Vermont, where it's so dark and cold, but no, it's in the bright sunshine of the West. And so we're learning a lot more. And that has been so good to me as a person, and we have now funded projects around America where there are suicide prevention programs that are extremely important. There are suicide victims programs where people can get together after someone, a loved one, kills themselves. So that's something that I'm glad I worked on. Finally, healthcare. "24 years ago, one of my friends from Las Vegas called me, Sandy Jolly, and she said, I would like you to look at this film I'm going to send you. She said, you won't want to watch it, but I want you to watch it. And what it showed was a beautiful little girl from in Africa, in a party dress. It was white. She looked so pretty, it was a party. And suddenly, two men grabbed her, spread her legs apart, and cut out her genitals right there with a razor blade. I thought, man, that's hard to comprehend. And my staff said, no, it's something that you shouldn't deal with. It should be for a woman. But I went ahead and I did something about it. We haven't done as much as we should do, and I would hope that we have people who will pick up this issue. I had a meeting last Friday, the biggest audience I've ever had. Just people, they were there. There was a conference on female genital mutilation. I say that word because that's what it is. Millions of little girls have been cut. That's what it's called, cut. Last year, no one knows for sure, but probably 250,000 little girls were cut. And last Friday, I had 200 people there. I said, this is wonderful. I said, I've had 10 people a couple times, but 2 or 3 of the people were lost, and I really didn't want to be there. It's really important that we do something about this. We have some laws now. It's against the law in the United States. You can't go away and for purpose of being cut. But there's a lot more needs to be done. Our government has done almost nothing. Spend a little bit on environment. You know, I've been chairman of the Environment Public Works Committee twice. Not for very long. I gave it up once because I had to because of control of Congress. And one time I gave it away, as some will remember. I gave it away. I gave up my chairmanship and my committee spot to Jim Jeffords. But I love that committee. I've been involved in environment and energy things since I came here. The state of Nevada is 87% owned by the federal government. 87% of the state of Nevada is federal land. The rest, 13%, is private land. So that, of course, I should be concerned about it. Yucca Mountain, I'm not going to get in a long dissertation about that, but because of, we spent about $8 billion there so far, maybe more. It's gone. Someone asked me the other day, well, you know, Republicans are in power now. They're going to come back with Yucca Mountain. I said, well, they better bring a checkbook with them because there's nothing there now. They'd have to start all over again. The big auger that spent well more than $1 billion was digging that tunnel. That's ground up for scrap metal. There's nothing there. So you could probably get it going again now for $10, $12 billion. So if you got a way to pay for it, good luck. But if you were smart, what you would do is leave it where it is in dry cast storage containers, which is proven to be extremely safe and effective, and that's what should be done. Renewable energy transmission. Part of the stimulus bill said, you know, one of the problems we have with energy is that we don't have a way of transmitting electricity to where it should go. We talk about all this renewable energy, which is produced in places where there aren't a lot of people, but you can't get it any place where there are a lot of people. That's been changed with the stimulus bill. For example, in Nevada, we have Line 1, it's called, and that, for the first time in the history of the state of Nevada, we can move power from the north to the south of Nevada. Part of that legislation, and that's underway now, that line will also go up into the northwest. So that was good legislation. I've had clean energy summits for many, many years. We bring in national leaders, Democrats and Republicans, to focus attention on the problems America has with energy. Clintons have come, Obama's been there. We've had Republicans of many, and here's one that came, he did a great job, Tom Donahue. Everybody knows him. We Democrats know him for sure. Head of the Chamber of Commerce. Coal. You know, I have no problem with coal. I've helped fund clean coal technology. One of my directed spending was a Tracy power plant outside Reno. That was a clean coal plant, except it didn't work. And so they had to go to another type of fuel. So I have nothing against coal. However, I do have something about, I was upset about this. Nevada is very pristine. I've told a couple people this. People don't understand Nevada. Everybody thinks it's the deserts of Las Vegas, but it's not. Nevada is the most mountainous state in the Union except for Alaska. We have 314 separate mountain ranges. We have a mountain 14,000 feet high. We have 32 mountains over 11,000 feet high. It's a very mountainous state. And so when I learned by reading the papers that we were going to have power companies come to Nevada, our most pristine areas, and they were going to build 3 or 4 new power plants fueled by coal. I said no. And my staff said, you can't do that. You're up for re-election, and they'll destroy you. Well, they tried. They leafleted all the cars in the parking lot, so I was running up the power bills. But I won, they lost. There are no coal-fired plants in Nevada. One of them, there's 2 left. One of them is going out of business in a matter of 2 weeks, and the other is on its way out probably within a year. So we're going to have coal-fired plants in Nevada. But we do have lots and lots of renewable energy. I've worked especially with John Ensign when he was here, major land bills, Clark County, Lincoln County, White Pine County, Carson City, and we were able to do a lot of good things to bring land in to save. Because of him, he was a real conservative guy. I had to make deals to make some of our 87% land private. I was able to do that, and he was able to work with me to create more wilderness, and we worked together to get that done. I created the first national park in Nevada, Great Basin National Park. It's wonderful. Everything within the Great Basin is in that park. We have hard to believe now in Nevada, but we have a glacier. We have the oldest living things in the world on that mountain. It's called those old pine trees. They're there. They're there. They're 6,000 or 7,000 years old. Bristlecone pine. They're there. It's a beautiful, beautiful park. Basin Range National Monument. I worked with President Clinton on this. More than 700,000 acres in a remote place in Nevada, and it's done. It's a place where John Muir came as a young man, camping there and talking about how beautiful this was in his diary. Well, now everyone can see that. But part of that wonderful place is a man who's a famous, world-famous artist. His name is Heiser, Michael Heiser. He worked for 40 years building this monument in the middle of nowhere. It is in the middle of nowhere, and it's done. It's called the City. It is the most magnificent thing. We don't have roads coming there yet, but we will pretty soon. But that's done. Tule Springs. Right in the middle of the growth of Las Vegas, people came to me one time and they said, we have this place in Nevada where we have the oldest and most abundant source of fossils any place in America. What? I thought they were anyway, to make a long story short, that's now a national monument. You can come to Las Vegas if you're an archaeologist, or if you're interested in old fossils, you can come there. And I don't mean old people. You can come there, and there's this great study, all these studies going on with this Tule Springs National Monument. When I came to the Congress, we had about 70,000 acres of wilderness in Nevada. Now we have about 4 million. Those are legislative initiatives of mine. We have 4 million acres of wilderness approximately, and we have 1.5 million acres of additional conservation land. I've mentioned some of it here. Water has been difficult for Nevada, the north and the south. The first thing I did is when I came to Congress, actually to the Senate, is I knew I'd been elected to the Senate. I was leaving Reno, headed to Vegas on an airplane. And someone asked me, what's the most difficult problem facing Nevada? And I said, water. But having said that, we've all done it. I thought, well, what am I going to do now? I have to do something about it. And we did something. Now it's all done. We settled a 100-year water war between the states of California and Nevada. We settled all the litigation on the Truckee and Carson rivers. It took 20 years to finally implement that. There were many water systems in the Lake Tahoe region. They're gone. We had a large wetlands that had gone dry. That's now getting fresh water in it. It involved an irrigation district, 2 Indian tribes, 2 endangered species. We were able to get all that done. And it's made a stable water supply for northern Nevada, the Reno area. Southern Nevada, it's really a desert. It's really 4 inches of rain a year in Las Vegas. But we've worked hard with the water czar there, one by name Pat Milroy. She's done wonderful things. I see the junior senator from Arizona here. When she was selected, states of Arizona and California wouldn't speak to each other. They were fighting over water. Now we work together on water. It's been remarkable what we've been able to do as partners to get things done. We now We bank water for Arizona, and when they need the water, it's in our ground, we can give it back to them. But it's been good for Nevada because we can use that water in the meantime. We have also done good work with California. California got most of the water out of the Colorado River. They took a lot more than they should have, and we were able to work on that. But we work with California in a very positive way. We help pay for reservoirs. We help line canals. We did lots of good things to help water in that whole area. So I'm happy about that. Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe we share with California. Lake Tahoe is a stunningly beautiful place. There are only 2 alpine lakes in the world. One of them is in Siberia, the other's there. And I've had 20 summits there. We've gotten over $1 billion there with the cooperation of the California delegation and many others. We've done well in stabilizing and helping the clarity of that beautiful lake. Walker Lake is another lake that was originally controlled by the Indians. It's been stolen from them by us. But we now have gotten hundreds of millions of dollars directed toward that. And we have bought up water rights, and we've saved Walker Lake. There's 21 desert terminus lakes in the world. There's 2 in America, they're both in Nevada, and we've saved those 2 lakes, Walker and Pyramid Lake. Now here's one thing, and then I'll move on. There was a great big gravel pit. Oh man, 10, 15 times bigger than this chamber, huge. And there was spots of black appeared on it. And the state of Nevada didn't have the resources to take on the oil companies, the airlines, and so they didn't know what was wrong. And so I got Bill Bradley, who was chairman of the subcommittee on energy, to go out and hold a hearing. And it was so important we did that because we determined that the oil was coming from broken oil lines, fuel lines, going to the Reno airport. And had we not done something, it would have been awful. It was declared an emergency Superfund site, and immediately people moved in and took care of that. Now that I'm giving you just a quick look at it, that gravel pit is now a beautiful lake. It's called the Sparks Marina. There's condos, apartments, businesses all around that. People boat on it. It's wonderful. And it was all started out as a gravel pit. I appreciate Bill Bradley's good work on that. I want to talk about national security. There are people in this chamber much better than I on national emergency and national security, and I know that. But I've worked hard. We have been a dumping ground for all things in the military. We had the Nellis Air Force Base originally. And by the way, Bill Nellis is from Searchlight. He was a war hero in World War II. It's the finest fighter training facility in the world. If you want to fly jet airplanes and have the so-called PhD, you must train at Nellis. We have a large gunnery range. We have also in northern Nevada, the Navy does the same thing with Fallon Naval Air Training Center. And I frankly have gotten tens and tens of millions of dollars for both those operations because they've been important. Also, everyone, we hear a lot about drones. Every drone attack that takes place in the world takes place 30 miles outside Las Vegas at Creech Air Force Base. Used to be called Indian Springs. That's where they all take place. We have all these great servicemen, those mostly airmen, who take care of that. They protect us around the world. Barbara Mikulski is here. She traveled as we were new senators. She was in a position to help me on appropriations. She said, this facility in Reno was awful, and Barbara Mikulski is going to do something about it, and she did, very quickly. We renovated that place. It was so bad, that old VA hospital, that you couldn't get the new hospital equipment down the halls. They were too small. So Senator Mikulski, I've said before how much I appreciate that. She took care of that. I've had good fortune. 2 VA hospitals I have requested money for, and they're built in southern Nevada. We had one that was an experiment with the joint venture between Veterans Administration and the Air Force, and it worked great, except we had the Middle East war in it. The veterans were given, go someplace else. And so we don't have that anymore, but we have a huge new one that's built, the newest and the best in the entire VA system. It's not fully Doesn't have all the equipment they need, but it's been functioning now for a couple of years and it's been very good. I feel very proud of that. The Nevada test site is part of our national security, and I've done everything I can to make sure that facility is taken care of, and it is. We have a lot of experiments going on there all the time. If you, we have all these, what we call fuel spills. They're all the testing takes place there. Finally, with the military, here's one of the best things I ever did. And as I heard Barbara Mikulski yesterday talk about, listen to what your constituents say. A group of veterans came a few feet from here to talk to me a number of years ago. And they said, you know, Senator, this is somewhat strange. I'm disabled. I have a military, I'm disabled from the military. I also am retired from the military. I can't draw both benefits. So what are you talking about? I said, I can't. He said, if you retire from the Forest Service and you have a military pension, you can draw that and your disability. You can get your pension from the BLM or Forest Service, wherever it is, and you also get your disability, but not if it's both military. And we've changed that. Now, if you have a disability and you've retired from the military, you can draw both. It's called concurrent receipts, and that took a long time, but we got it done. It's not perfect, but it is 80% all done. Okay, judiciary. You know, I talked earlier this morning about I'm a lawyer. And I'm proud of the fact that I was a trial lawyer. I hear senators talk all the time about these judicial selection committees they have. Pick who they're going to have on the federal bench. And I'm glad they do that, because I also have a judicial selection committee. But you know who's on that committee? Me. No one else is on it. I've selected all my judges. I'm the committee. And I'm very happy with what I've been able to do. One of the things I did when I was in the House, I named a federal building in Las Vegas, named after this very famous family of lawyers, Foley family, 2 federal judges, a district attorney, a state court judge. Anyway, a wonderful family called the Foley family. So I go back for the 10th anniversary of that, and I look up there, and nothing but white men. I thought to myself, gee, I hope someday I can change that, and as fortune would have it, Lloyd George decided to take senior status, and I had a chance to do something about that. And I have sent names to the president. I've selected 4 more judges myself in the entire history of the state of Nevada, other senators. So what I did with the first one, so I thought, well, I want to get a woman. We don't have a black on the court either. Why don't we get a black and a woman? And that's what I did. Oh, was I criticized. Oh, she didn't have enough experience. You could have found somebody better. She was a dynamo. People loved this woman. She was so good. She was so good that she's now on the 9th Circuit. And she quickly went there. And during the last of the, anyway, make a long story short, she's been part of the talk about who could go on the Supreme Court. This is a wonderful one named Johnny Rawlinson. I put Roger Hunt, great trial lawyer, on there. Kent Dawson, one of my predecessors, city attorney. David Hagan, a wonderful trial lawyer out of Reno. I put him on the bench. Brian Sandoval. I selected as a federal judge, and he was a good federal judge. And things were going great until he ran against my son for governor. And I wish he hadn't, because my son would now be governor. But he's my friend, and we have a family that accepted that. But he was a Hispanic, first Hispanic on the bench. I have appointed another Hispanic, Gloria Navarro, parents born in Cuba. She's a woman. She's now the chief judge. Miranda Dew. How about that? A woman born in Vietnam is now on the bench in Nevada. How about that? Miranda Dew, born in Vietnam, came here when she was 11 years old to Alabama. Jennifer Dorsey, a woman. Andrew Gordon, Harvard Law graduate. Richard Bulwer, African American. So I've changed that Nevada bench significantly, federal bench. I've had the pleasure of voting for and against all 8 members of the Supreme Court that now sit there. During my career, every one of them I've had a chance to vote. Education. I've worked hard for education in Nevada, and I've done okay. Desert Research Institute is a unique organization. Not helped by the university in Nevada at all. They do it on their own. All PhDs. They've been in existence for 50 years. Some of the most significant research in the world is done there. UNLV supercomputers, I've gotten 2 of them. UNR Earthquake Center, the best in the world. They have more shake tables than any place in America. And people come from all over the world to study what happens with earthquakes. Biodiversity study. For many years, I directed funding to the biodiversity study. They studied, it was the best science going on at the time on the environment, studying the Great Basin. Native Americans in Nevada. We have 26 different tribal organizations. I'm really happy with what I've been able to do to help Native Americans, and believe me, they haven't been treated well in Nevada or any place else. I've led the legislative efforts to make sure that we have water rights taken care of, settle long-standing claims against the United States. We've done the Fallon Paiute Shawnee tribe, Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, Shawnee Paiute tribes, Duck Valley Reservation, all have been able to develop their water rights and their economies. Pyramid Lake, for example, their money is going to be almost $100 million. Fallon was $60 million. We worked to get 2 new high schools built, and they were so long overdue. Shawnee Claims Distribution Act, it took decades to get done. We finally got it done. Washoe tribe, thanks to President Clinton, we're able to get the Indians who belonged up there, the Washoe tribe, get them land right on the lake. It's been a dream job of mine to work with the Obama administration for the last 8 years. Being his point man here in the Senate. I gave an extended speech on him yesterday. I want to make that part of the record, and I ask consent to do that, Mr. President.
Without objection.
So you don't have to listen to that same stuff again. But I did do it yesterday. And I also want to ask unanimous consent that I have lots and lots of stuff that I've done that I didn't feel I'd take the time to do. I want to make that part of the record.
Without objection.
So just get that to him. Okay, winding down, everybody. I know you're glad, but it's been 34 years. I've served with 281 different senators during the time I've been here. I have such fond memories of so many. So many. The hilarious Fritz Hollings, the competent Fritz Hollings. I've never known a better joke teller, and I hope Al's not mad, than Frank Lautenberg. He could tell stories. I have asked him to tell stories, the same story so many times I couldn't tell it. But he had one about 2 wrestlers. I'm not going to repeat it. But he was very, very funny. I'm not going to go through the whole Ted Kennedy list and all that, but I've had wonderful experiences with my senator friends. When I came as a Democratic senator, there was one woman, Barbara Mikulski. That was it. One woman. I'm very happy now that we have 17 Democratic women and we have 4 Republican women. And I want to just say, make the record very clear. The Senate is a better place because of women being here. There is no question, for many different reasons. But they have added so much to the Senate. The only problem we have now, there aren't enough of them. But we did our best this go-around. We got 4 new Democratic senators. Leaders. I've already talked about Senator McConnell. It's been my good fortune to have been able to serve with such good leaders like Robert Byrd. I don't know if it's true. I accept it because that's what I want to believe. A number of people told me I was his pet. As I say, I don't know if I was or not, but he sure was good to me. George Mitchell, what a wonderful extemporaneous speaker. He was the best. This federal judge, this U.S. attorney, this good man from Maine. Bob Dole, I was a junior senator and didn't have a lot of interchange with him when he was a leader, but I have had a lot lately. He calls me on some of the issues he's working on now. I can remember one of the most moving times of my life. Dan Inouye was lying in state in the chamber and in the rotunda. he called me and asked me if I would go over there with him. Of course I would. And so he's in a wheelchair. Somebody pushes him over there, and he says, stop. There's a little alcove there, and Bob Dole, as hard as it was for him, walked over to the crypt where Danny was, and he climbed up on the bier and said, Danny, I love you. If that wouldn't bring a tear to your eye, nothing would. So I'll always remember that. And Bob Dole. Trent Lott, he was really a good leader, extremely conservative, but extremely pragmatic. We got lots of stuff done. I was Senator Dash's point person to get legislation out of this body, and we did some really good things. Tom Daschle, he always gave me lots of room to do things. I can remember once I was the whip, and I thought he had been too generous with one of the other senators, and I complained. He said, look, you're going to make this whip's job whatever you want it to be. And I took him at his word, and I did. I never left the floor. Senate opened, I was here. When it closed, it was here. Bill Frist, a fine human being. I really cared about him a lot. He was an experienced legislator, but that's okay. He was an experienced human being. I liked him a lot. And I've already talked about Mitch. Diversity. We don't have enough diversity in the Senate, but I do take credit for creating a diversity office here with Democrats. And Senator Schumer's indicated he's going to continue that, and I'm very happy that he's going to do that. We don't have enough diversity, I repeat. I want to tell everyone here, I am grateful to all my Democratic senators. They've been so good to me during my time as leader. But I have to mention Durbin. He and I came here together 34 years ago. He has been so supportive of me. He's been my cousin Jeff. So okay if I tell the story? Okay, so here I go. My brother lives in Searchlight still, and he's an interesting man. He had a girlfriend there that was married. And he brought her home one night, and her husband or boyfriend, whatever it was, jumped out of the tree on my brother's back, and they had a fight, and my brother won. And so a couple weeks later, he's at the 49er Club, a little bar, a little place in Searchlight, and he's having a beer, whatever he drinks. He looks around, he sees the guy that he beat up, but the guy's got a couple people with him, and he knew why they were there. They were there to work him over. And he said, well, what am I going to do? And just about then, a miracle happened. Our cousin Jeff walked in. He hadn't been to Searchlight in a couple of years, but cousin Jeff was known as being a really tough guy. So Larry said, here's the deal. Cousin Jeff looked them over, went over to the biggest one, grabbed his nose, twisted as hard as he could. He said, you guys want any part of me or my cousin Larry? And they said no, and they left. So the reason I mentioned that, the reason I say Durbin is my cousin Jeff, I was in my office watching the floor, and McConnell was up there. I was so damn mad. He was talking about stuff. I was mad. I called my office. Why don't we have somebody out there saying something? He's the senator. That was transcribed. That was recorded earlier today. We're out of session. So Durbin has been my man, my cousin Jeff. Whenever I have a problem, everybody, I call Dick Durbin. And he can come. You know, Dick Durbin can talk about anything and it sounds good. Okay? Okay. Chuck Schumer. Okay. My kid said, make sure you tell everybody about how smart you think he is. Okay, I'm going to do it. One day I said to Schumer, we hadn't known each other for a long time, but I said, how the hell did you ever get in Harvard? He said, it helped. I got a perfect SAT and a perfect LSAT. And that's true. Would not just talk, he did. He's a brilliant man. He's got a big heart, and he works extremely hard, and he's been so good to me. We've worked together. He took a job he didn't want, chair of the DSCC twice, but it worked out great. We were able to get the majority. So I always have great affection for him, and I wish him the well in being my replacement. I'm confident he'll do a good job. He won't be me, but he'll do a good job. My staff. We checked yesterday, my staff did. It's hard to comprehend how many people I've had work for me over 34 years. Almost 3,000, everybody. And I feel so strongly about my staff. They are my family. I really, really do believe that. I feel they're my family. Chiefs of staff, I haven't had that many, surprisingly, in over 34 years. Claude Zobel, Ray Martinez, Susan McHugh, Gary Myrick, David Crone, Drew Willison, and of course, David McCallum, who's been done so much to make sure I didn't overspend things. And my utility man, Bill Dowster, he can catch, pitch, play any position on the field. He's been great for me. I appreciate Bill's work very much. Thank you, Adele, because I would be so embarrassed if I didn't say something about Patty Murray. She's been part of this little leadership team I've had. You know, we never had anything like this before in the Senate. Leaders prior to me, they did it all on their own. But I've had these three wonderful human beings helping me for all these years. We meet every Monday night, get set up for the caucus on Tuesday, for the leadership meeting on Tuesday. So Patty, you and Rob, I just care so much about. And I want you to know how I appreciate your loyalty, your hard work. You've taken some jobs that you didn't want to take. That budget job, that super, whatever the hell it was called. And that was awful. I don't know how long she's going to live, but that took a few years off her life. But you and Rob have been great. Loretta is my friend. Iris, I love. So thank you very much, you guys. I've told every one of my staff, with rare exception, you represent me. If you're on the phone, when you answer that phone, you're representing me. You are as if you're Harry Reid on that phone. I say the same to those who speak, write, and advocate for me. They represent me, and they've done so well. They've helped me in good times and bad times. What is the future of the Senate? I'd hope that everyone would do everything they can to protect the Senate as an institution. As part of our Constitution, it should be given the dignity it deserves. I love the Senate. I don't need to dwell on that. I love the Senate. I care about it so very, very much. I've enjoyed Congress for 34 years. As the leader here in the Senate, I've had such joy and times of, oh, wow, what are we going to do now? That's what these jobs are like. They're so exhilarating until, oh man, something happens, and I think all of you have done just like I have just said, wow, what are we going to do now? The Senate has changed, some for the good, some for the bad. I want to say this, though. It isn't the same as when I first came here. There's change in everything. The biggest change has been the use of the filibuster. I do hope my colleagues are able to temper their use of the filibuster. Otherwise, it will be gone. It'll be gone first on nominations, and then it'll be gone on legislation. This is something you have to work on together. Because if you continue to use it the way it's been used recently, it's going to really affect this institution a lot. Something has to be done about the outrageous amount of money from sources that are dark, unknown, now involved in our federal elections. The Citizens United case in January of 2010, if this doesn't change, we don't do something about this vast money coming into our elections, in a couple more election cycles, we're going to be just like Russia. We're going to have a plutocracy. few rich guys telling our leader what to do. Leonard Cohen, who recently died, one of America's great music geniuses, recently died, as I said. In one of his songs called Anthem, he says it all, and I quote, "There's a crack in everything. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." That's what he said. And I believe there are cracks in what's happening with the huge amount of money currently in federal elections and excessive partisanship. The cracks are the American people don't like it. They don't like this money. They don't like the partisanship. So there are cracks. The cracks, I repeat, because American people are complaining big time about the excessive use of money and objecting to the partisanship. That's the crack. And that's how the light's going to get in. That's how America has an opportunity to become a better place where money will not control our political system or will partisanship. So just a little bit of advice to my colleagues. It's worked okay for me. It doesn't matter if I'm in Elko, really a conservative place in Nevada, 400 miles from Las Vegas. If a question is asked in Elko of me, I say that I give the same answer there as I give in Las Vegas. We should all do that. People in Nevada have never had to worry how I stand on the issue. I tell them how I feel, and that's why I've never had any big bang elections. But people at least know how I stand. People who don't necessarily like how I vote, what I talk about, at least they know how I feel. I think that's good advice for everybody. At least that's worked well for me, I hope. But what's your formula for success? What do you recommend? And I tell them the same thing about working hard. Of course, that's important. Of course, it's important. But also, stay true to who you are, your roots. Now, my social life, my time in Washington's been different than many. I'm not saying it's better, but it's been different. Every year there are galas. White House Correspondents' Dinner, the Gridiron Club Dinner, Radio and Correspondents' Dinner, the Alfalfa Club. So during my 34 years in Congress, I have approximately 135 or 36 of these. I've attended one of them. For me, that was enough. I've attended one congressional picnic in 34 years. That was because my son Key had a girlfriend named Miley, and he wanted to impress her. And I guess he did because they're married. But one was enough for me. I've attended one state dinner. That's because I had a son who spent 2 years in Argentina. I wanted to meet the president of Argentina. I did that for my son Rory. But one was enough. I haven't been to another one. I've never been to a White House congressional ball that's going to be held tonight. I guess haven't been inquisitive how it would be, but I don't want to go. I've seen one World Series, that was enough. I've been to one Super Bowl, that was plenty. I've flown once in an F-18, and that was enough. So I've gone over the years to hundreds of fundraisers for my friends and colleagues, but everyone has to acknowledge I can get in and out of those pretty quick. So let me talk about the press a little bit and their responsibility as I see it. We're entering a new Gilded Age, and it's never been more important to be able to distinguish between what is real and what is fake. We have lawmakers pushing for tax cuts for billionaires and calling it populism. We have media outlets pushing conspiracy theories disguised as news. Separating real from fake has never been more important. And I wish I have met him, but I wish I could sit down and talk to him sometime because I so admire Pope Francis. Here's what he said yesterday, and this is a quote. The media that focuses on scandals and spread fake news to smear politicians risks becoming like people who have a morbid fascination with excrement. That's what Pope Francis said. He added that using communications for this rather than educate the public amounted to a sin. Well, he can categorize sin. I can't, but I agree with him on what he just said. I acknowledge the importance of the press. I admire what you do and understand the challenges ahead of you. But be vigilant, because you have as much to do with our democracy as any branch of government. This is best understood by listening to what George Orwell had to say a long time ago. I quote, "Freedom of the press, if it means anything at all, means the freedom to criticize and oppose." So press, criticize, and oppose. Please do that. So this really is the end of my speech. I have 5 children: Lana, Rory, Leaf, Josh, and Key. They've been role models for me and for Landra. They were role models. We learned from them when we were young, and we're still learning from them. We appreciate the exemplary lives they have led. I'm confident, hopeful, and determined to make sure that they understand how much affection, love, and admiration I have for each of them, for their wonderful spouses, and our 19 grandchildren. Okay, here goes. Whatever success I had in my educational life, my life as a lawyer, my life as a politician, including my time in Congress, is directly attributable to Landra, my wife. We met when Landra was a sophomore in high school and I was a junior. That was more than 6 decades ago. We married at age 19. As I've said, we have 5 children. We have wonderful 19 grandchildren. She's been the being of my existence in my personal life and my public life. Disraeli, the great prime minister, said in 1837, listen to this, what he said: the magic of first love is that it never ends. I believe that. She's my first love. And it will never end. Lana and I have talked, and we understand we're going to have a different life. We've said it, and we believe that we're not going to dwell on the past. We'll be involved in the past any way we need to be, but we're going to look to the future. I wish everyone the best. I'm sorry I talked too long. I usually don't do that. I thank everyone for listening to my speech. I appreciate my wonderful family being here, my friends, my staff, and each of you. Thank you for friendship, support over the years.